Jybe, How I Did It, Episode 4, Phase 3 Carving. See the links to other episodes in the description below. So this is a position that I am after I just finished initialization. Hands in archer position, ankles bent, mast inclined forward along the center line. The turn is happening, but at a slow rate. As I talked in previous clip, in extreme conditions I can make a turn with just initialization alone, without inclining the mast and body into the turn. But in normal conditions it will be too slow to make it go way faster. All I do is guiding the mast perpendicular to the center line. This inclines the sail into the turn. Inclination is absolutely essential to the fast turn. When you're tuning, you're moving in an arc, and when you're moving in an arc, there is also a centripetal acceleration. This acceleration is created as a result of forces. Alright, without too much formulas and too much discussion, a couple words still about moving in the arc. When we're moving, when we're tuning, this is radius, this is velocity, and this is always centripetal acceleration A. Always, as long as we're tuning, as long as we have the radius, the speed, the vector of speed is changing, and there is always centripetal acceleration, and it is v squared divided over r. This is acceleration that always exists when the body doesn't move in the straight line, and it's directed towards the center. It doesn't matter who is moving, the airplane, the bicycle, the skier, the snowboarder, the surfer. There is always this acceleration. And then there is a second law of motion, that sum of all forces equals mass on acceleration. And that's it. And it doesn't matter if it's Earth rotating around the Sun or satellite rotating around the Earth. As soon as there is orbital motion, maybe a cone pendulum rotating like this, in this surface, as long as this is a circle, as long as this is a radius, there is always centripetal acceleration. And this centripetal acceleration is this. So coming back to our case, let's for example think about what causes this acceleration. The sum of all forces that causes this centripetal acceleration. And it's like, for example, we have a surfer, and the surfer inclines, this is the surface of the ocean, and the surfer inclines the board, and this is this and reaction of the water. This is like the force that creates the lift, and it's inclined, and it's not vertical, and because it's not vertical, the sum of this and the sum of gravity, this is a vector and it has a projection, and this projection is the total sum of all forces, and this force creates this centripetal acceleration. Or there is a plane and it just inclines, and then there is a force, the total of all forces, mg down, and then is the lift. And then the sum of all those forces creates this force, and this force creates centripetal acceleration. Or there is a biker on the road. Biker inclines and turns the turn, and then there is reaction from the surface, and this is mg, and the sum of these forces creates this force, and this force is total of all sums, and all of forces, it's unbalanced, and it creates this centripetal acceleration. So, if we come back to our skier or surfer, or in this case there are two forces. one force from the water, and this is because we're banking the board. It's like surfer, it's like snowboarder, it's like skier. This force and this force. And those alone create this centripetal force. But if we also, and let's consider our board is flat, and we also incline the sail. Let's say this is a sail and this is our body and it's all inclined, and then this is a force in this direction, the force in this direction, and the total of these forces creates the force that directed to the side, and this sum of all these forces creates this acceleration and the board starts to turn. So there are two things. One is inclination of the board, another banking of the board, I should say, not inclination. And another is inclination of the rig. And those are two forces that allow us to turn. There are three things you are worrying during this carving phase. First, guiding the sail perpendicular to the center line. This inclines the rig and creates a force directed to the center. This force creates acceleration directed to the center, perpendicular to the board velocity. Board starts to turn in an arc much faster. Second thing, you establish the vision. So I want to talk about vision. So if this is a board, and this is a mast, and this is a sailor, what I always think to myself, I establish the vision. It's like 45 degrees. 45 degrees. So this is a board, this, and I look somewhere here. And this is my point of view. My point where I'm looking. And I imagine that there is imaginable teeter. And this point is teetered to the nose of the board. So I look somewhere here, and it forces the nose to turn. And the board starts to go in the arc, and when the board is located here, I'm still looking 45 degrees somewhere here, and this is this teeter. And so my vision, my change of my vision causes the board to turn. This is like a metaphor or trick or memory trick, but that's what I use. I imagine, when I say I imagine, establish the vision, I always look 45 degrees ahead of my nose and of the nose of the board. And I maintain this vision until the end. I establish it in the carving, during the carving phase, and I maintain it exit phase 1, exit phase 2, and exit phase 3, all the way until the end. Third, you can add the body inclination to the turn. They call it projection or anticipation. They do it in skiing, in snowboarding, in surfing. They send or project the body into abyss, anticipating that the body will not fall, and the rest of your equipment will turn on its own. It's just essential for the lay down, but it's not so much necessary for the carving jibe. For me, it's like the third thing that's on my list, but I do it sometimes and a little. Finally, I want to compare this preparation utilization carving with just standard preparation carving. Alright, I want to talk about the mast tip of the board. So this is a board, this is a mast base, and when I'm sailing straight, when we're sailing the straight, the mast tip is somewhere here. And what is suggested that during preparation you unhook, and then you immediately move forward, and the mast tip goes away, all the way across the board, and it's now here, and you start to carve. And this is how everyone teaches it, that during straight sailing it is here, during turning it's here, during preparation you unhook and you move it straight along this line. This is not how I do it. It's too much for me. I simply cannot do it for whatever reason. It's too much pressure, too many things at once. put all the eggs in one basket, I cannot do it. So the way I do it is, so this is the same board, this is a mast base and this is a mast tip. So first thing I do a preparation and then move the mast vertical and this preparation ends. And from here on, I do initialization. During initialization I do this side swipe. And this side swipe moves the tip of the mast somewhere here, along the center line. And then, during the third phase, I incline the mast in this direction and the tip comes somewhere here. So it's at the same spot in the end, only I'm not doing this as fast as real guys do. I do it slower. Here, here and here. And the distance is longer because this is like straight line and this is two lines of the triangle. And but it is way more controlled for me. So I arrive to the same point, but with different route. Anyway, there are only 2 or 3, if you want projection, things to look after in this phase: inclining the mast and establishing vision. Your ankles are already bent, and you don't change it a iota. And your hands are holding the boom in the proper spot, and they will be holding this until the very end, until the last phase, the flip. And you are in archer position, and you're not doing many things at once, so it's much more easier and much more controllable for me. This is very fast phase, carve or turn, and we're moving to the first exit phase already, that I discuss in the next clip.